Hey there, cosmic construction workers! Miss O Plays back, and this week we got a tutorial on building new floors. Now, this tutorial sprang about because I've been working on a vacation resort on Kodos and kind of moving away from that scrappy, rustic, kind of ranchy vibe I've been using. And I wanted to get more of a Paradiso kind of feel, you know, like we got that great little stage over there, these nice, warmer, less metallic floors, all underneath an open sky. And as a lot of you know, that is difficult to do with the vanilla assets. But as always, here are some workarounds that I have been working with to make it possible. So let's get stuck in and take a look at how we can build our very own sky bridge. And I want to give a big shout out to Mills Bills here on YouTube for his technique on how to put an airlock over an existing hab, which I'm going to use for this, and to Background Most 1180 on Reddit for showing that you can attach rug pieces to those airlocks. Now, to start with this technique to make the walkway, first you need to place down one of these small hexagonal habs, and then attach two-story fall wall habs on either side, and that's going to give you the direction you want your sky bridge to go in. Now, you need to put these four-walled habs line up with the short sides of that rooftop rectangle, and that will allow you to put the airlocks neatly on top of that hexagonal hab. And you can see here that the doorways line up nicely, but the walkway parts do not. So we're going to need to offset one of these airlocks over a space to get this to line up to make the sky bridge. And to do this, you put one walkway piece on the side of that first square hab, build another square hab off to the side. Now we're going to remove this walkway and slide that first two-story hab over one space to align with that new square hab we just built. So once that is snapped in place, we need to take the hexagonal hab and center it back with the new position for that two-story one. And when we put the airlock on top this time, as you can see, those walkway pieces line up perfectly. And that will be the base for our sky bridge. So I'm just going to move this hexagonal hab out of the way because we're going to come back to that in just a second. But first, let's have a look at what we've just built with those walkways. Now, once you've taken that hexagonal hab out, these are just left kind of floating, and you don't have any stairs or anything underneath it. So you could leave these as just a balcony, or you can keep building and turn that into some outdoor living space. To do that, we're going to come back to this hexagonal hab. And the reason I like to do this part on top of here is because this rectangle on the roof is going to provide a great guiding template and help us build a new floor that's going to fit really neatly between those two airlocks. And to do that, we're going to get these rugs and start tiling them into a 4x4 grid. And we're going to try to get this floor to be as close to the full length of this rectangle as is humanly possible, and a little bit narrower than the narrowest part. And that should give you the perfect size for this sky bridge. And we're going to layer this up one horizontal row at a time. And the reason for that is every time you put one rug on top of another rug, you get a little bit of a step up. And by doing these in horizontal lines rather than vertical, you can kind of disguise that height difference to the point where it becomes so subtle you won't really notice it when it's in its final position. And the overlaps here are really important because when we're finished with this platform, all we have to do is pick up the mat we first placed down and the whole thing will come with it. So we can build this out here and then move it wherever we want for a variety of different techniques. And it can be worth building on top of a roof, even if you want to put this inside, because as you can see, you can jetpack really high and get a good idea of how wonky that floor is getting before you get too far on in that construction and it's too difficult to change. And you might have noticed that I've been rather generous with my overlap when I'm going in those horizontal rows and really stingy on the vertical. That is because we really need to get this about as long as I have it here. And if you overlap too much, you're going to be just shy of hitting the other side of that sky bridge. So here we are with all of our mats in place. Let's take one last look. It's a little wonky, not too bad for the purposes of this video. And we're going to grab that first mat, which is this one. And as you can see, the whole thing comes with it. So now we have this one big solid floor that we can place wherever we want. And where we want to place it is going to be on the lip of one of these airlocks. And if you get the first mat and your cursor just on this corner where your stairs normally would be, it should stay pretty reliably. Here we go. And I find it easiest to put this initial placement down using the free cam mode and then go back to my captain's eye view. And we're going to just huff it over there to see if we need to do any more small adjustments. And you can actually adjust it while standing on any mat but the first one that you need to put down. And actually it looks like we don't need to do any adjustment. Normally there's a bit of a gap that I need to finagle. Might want to change the angle a little bit. So let's give it a bit of a move. But yeah, that's actually a pretty good fit first try. And that does not normally go so well first go. But here you can see I'm like standing on it and still able to nudge it over just a little bit to get it a little closer if I wanted to, and a little straighter till you have it put down exactly where you would like. And after a bit of faffing around, this looks pretty good to me. And now you can walk on it. You can see we don't have any gaps there. So it looks pretty solid as just one piece of floor. Once you're feeling pretty good about how that sky bridge looks, you can start deleting those initial habs and building around it to create whatever kind of outpost you would like. Deleting the main habs won't remove your bridge or those airlocks. It's just going to leave them hanging, which is really helpful. So you can replace it with whatever kind of structure you would like to have in their place. The only thing is, if you try moving the airlocks, it's not going to go too well. It's going to take the rug with it if you take the first one. And if you move the second one, you're going to have a hard time getting it lined up again. So those are stuck where you built them, but everything else is up to you. And as you can see, it looks pretty cool up there. And this is a quick shot of a work in progress that I am building at the moment. And I got the furniture up here. I haven't really finished decorating, but it gives you a good idea of what this space can be used for and what it looks like when it is in use. And I think it's pretty cool, and I think this is something I can see myself using in a lot of my other outposts going forward. So that pretty much covers how we're going to get some of that under the sky living that we saw in Paradiso. But what about those split floors and that stage? Well, we're going to do a similar thing with the mats, but first we need to make that split floor. And to do that, what I have used in my outpost here has been some of the coffee tables. Now I'm going to start with the mats I'm going to put down. To get an idea of how far from the wall I'm going to need those coffee tables to be. You don't have to do this first step. You can just put the coffee tables down and start building, but it can be a little easier to get an idea about how much coverage you're going to get from these mats before you start building the tricky bits. So that gives us a rough idea. I'm going to get this first table, move it up a little bit because we do have that lip of the wall that we want to account for. And I reckon if we start lining them up around here, that should give us a pretty good stage. And so now what we're going to do is just tile these coffee tables up along the vertical and the horizontal where we want the edges of the stage to be seen. And that is going to give the impression that it's kind of a solid platform and like something you might want to step on. So I'm going to keep tiling and tiling. And this can take quite a while because you want to get these as straight as you can until you have the whole structure framed in with these coffee tables. And then once you got that basic outline done, we're going to get another row there. You can see I just put them behind the first one. Not super neat because those are just going to be there to help us place the mats and avoid the need support error from flashing up. So we got our base ready. Now it is time to do that floor tiling trick again. We're going to be overlapping, going in the horizontal rows to avoid very obvious steps. And I'm going to be pretty generous, extra generous with the vertical one this time because we're trying to get it a little closer to the wall. But again, you make this as wide or narrow as you want your stage or platform to be. And once we've got the final one in position, we're just going to grab that first mat once again and use it to place on top of these coffee tables to give the impression of the stage. And having the wall there makes it a little bit harder than it was with the sky bridge because now we've got something to collide into. And I think I made this a little too wide. So we're going to pull this back down to the ground with the first mat. And if we take the first mat from the second row, we can actually just move that top row down. And it's a really easy way to calibrate it. Sometimes you got to go in a second time if your overlaps weren't that great like mine weren't. But now you can see, yeah, that fits in pretty well. maybe even up a little more with that wall, and there you go. We have ourselves a nice stage. Sometimes you can get your character to run up those tables, but it's enough of a height difference to be a bit of a problem sometimes. So I like to use that wall shelf trick like I showed in the barn conversion tutorial to make a nice step up, to make that smooth transition. And then once you got it in place, you can decorate around it, on top of it, however you want to integrate it into your room. And it makes a nice effect. You can also do multiple step ups and create a stadium seating situation if you would like. It's pretty versatile, but here I just used it as a half floor, and I actually tucked this platform in the end all the way wall to achieve that here. Now on top of these 3D effects, a lot of you have probably already been using this next trick, which is using the mats to change the feel of the halves, like these two-story ones that are very industrial looking, into something a little warmer. And to do that, I built the floor up on that roof again. To bring these from the outside in, we're going to place our captain inside the hab, switch to free cam to pick up the rugs, then back to captain cam, and as you can see, it'll just teleport those rugs nice inside without having to worry about that airlock. And the beauty of building it outside, apart from the straightness check, is it gives us some of that collision detection forgiveness that we used in the artillery tutorial, and it'll allow us to build underneath these stairs, because if we build inside this particular room, we're left trying to tile around those stairs, and trying to get that neat and tidy is a nightmare. But this way we can get it under there and a nice seamless floor. And then once it's in place, if it's not quite wide enough like it isn't here, you can just add an extra row of these mats to fill in the difference. If you do the overlap here too, then if you find you don't quite like the position of the original floor, you can still move it around. It'll move these extra layers with it, giving you the freedom to reposition the whole floor as many times as you want. Now, as well as this works downstairs, it also works really well upstairs if you want to gain a little extra building space by building over the second floor. Again, I'm doing it up on the roof because this allows us to do one, smaller overlaps than if we were building on the site, and two, it also gets us a bit more of that collision detection forgiveness should we require it around the banisters of the stairs. So it's going to pick up the one I made earlier, since you've seen me tile these rugs so many times in this video. And then we're just going to place it up on these ledges, kind of like we did with the sky bridge again and the airlocks. And when that is in place, we have all of this extra space to work with. And you can map out and tile out the whole floor outside if you want to, or you can just finish it up inside like I'm going to do here, which is a little bit easier because you know the space you are working towards, but maybe not quite as neat as if you made the whole thing in one go and then moved it as a single piece. But try out both ways and, figure out which one's the least annoying for you. Whichever method you choose though, it's going to bring you a little more control over the feel of these habs and also get back some space, which is honestly wasted in these two-story habs. Plus, trying to navigate around your companions and furniture on these really narrow ledges can be kind of a pain. So having the extra space to navigate on, it doesn't suck, even if tiling these rugs does suck. It's going to give you like a headache for 10 minutes whilst you build it, but just think, Sam can be standing in the middle of your damn walkway messing with a research station and you won't care because you can just go around him. And that alone is going to make the tension headaches you acquire making these floors worth it, along with the bonus of how cool your habs are going to look when you're finished. Like, it already looks so much brighter in here when the lights stay consistent, and it gives us a little more control, like I said, over the kind of things we can build. Here are some of these flaws in action in that work in progress outpost that we've been seeing during this video. It really is surprising just how much extra build space you can wrestle back just by tiling these floors over that space. The one major downside is you got all that space to build on now, but all of these mats will absolutely devour your outpost build budget, like just eat it and ask for seconds. So you might find yourself needing to make some compromises between big sprawling outposts and really sweet floors, but it is a very versatile technique to have in your kit, and you can take it from beachside resort to industrial just by changing up the color of those rugs. And thanks again for sticking with me through my adventures in wall-to-wall carpeting today. And as always, if you found anything in this video useful or entertaining, please drop me a like and subscribe. And I'll be back again next week with more building tips and outpost tours. Till then. Bye!